I never thought my sister Haley would slap me, and certainly not in front of 300 people at her wedding. But that's exactly what happened. I'm Mackenzie. I'm 32, a real estate agent living in Seattle. I've spent my adult life building myself up from scratch. Long hours, skipped vacations, budgeting every dime. And it paid off. I bought my dream penthouse in the city. I should have been proud. But in my family? Pride was never allowed, at least not for me. Growing up, Haley was the favorite. The beautiful disaster who never did her homework, but somehow always got praised. I was the responsible one, the planner, the fixer. When I got into college with honors, my parents barely noticed. When Haley barely graduated high school, they took her to Hawaii to celebrate her emotional journey. That favoritism? It didn't end with childhood. As adults, I paid my way through school, built a career, and bought a home. Haley drifted between jobs and relationships, always cushioned by my parents' checkbook. Every time she hit a wall, they called me. "Can you help your sister out? She just needs a little support." "You're stronger. Can't you sacrifice just a little?" Then she met Ryan. Old money, polished, from one of Seattle's most respected families. Suddenly, Haley was playing the part of a responsible adult. Wedding planning began. It was extravagant, over the top, and full of drama. No surprise there. What did shock me was her request. She wanted to move into my penthouse, rent-free. For just a year or two after the wedding, I said no, firmly, respectfully. My parents were furious. "Would it kill you to share with your sister? Just until they get settled?" Yes, it would kill me, or at least everything I worked for. Then came the wedding day, and the moment. During her reception speech, Haley announced to 300 guests that she and Ryan would be moving into my penthouse. As if I had said yes, I stood up, calmly corrected her. "That's not happening, Haley." And she slapped me, in front of everyone. What she didn't know was that one of the guests was a family court judge, and everything changed from that moment on. The slap echoed louder than the music. For a moment, no one moved. The room froze. Forks paused midair, phones halfway to pockets, gasps hanging like fog. Haley just stood there, red-faced, seething. Then the whispers began. I didn't say a word. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I simply turned around and walked out of the reception hall with my head held high. But the damage was already done. By the time I got home that night, my phone was blowing up with texts. Most from family. None supportive. "Why did you embarrass her on her big day? Couldn't you have just played along for once? You always make everything about you." Typical. I silenced my phone and sat in the dark, staring out over the city skyline from my penthouse window. The same view I fought so hard to earn. The same view Haley had expected to enjoy rent-free. I felt numb, angry, but mostly tired. The next morning, I got a knock on my door. It was a woman named Judge Lena Carver. I recognized her instantly. She had been seated near the front row at the wedding, a friend of Ryan's family. She introduced herself politely. "May I come in for a few minutes?" Curious, and still a bit stunned. I nodded. We sat at the kitchen island. She didn't waste time. "I was at the reception," she said. "I saw what happened. And frankly, I was disturbed. Not just by your sister's behavior, but by how your entire family turned on you for establishing a healthy boundary." I blinked. "You..." "What?" "I specialize in mediation and family law," she continued. "And I've worked with women like you, women made to feel guilty for saying no." Then she handed me her card. "If you ever need representation, support, or someone to help you set legal parameters around property, restraining orders, or family harassment, call me." And just like that, something inside me shifted. For the first time, someone saw through the performance and chose to stand with me. I stared at Judge Carver's card long after she left. It felt heavier than it should, not because of the cardstock, but because it symbolized something I'd never had before: validation. Someone powerful had seen the truth, and didn't try to twist it into guilt. That night, I opened my laptop and started writing an email. Not to the media, not to the public, but to my family. Subject line, setting the record straight. I kept it simple. I will not be shamed for protecting my boundaries. I will not be used, manipulated, or financially exploited by this family. Any further harassment in person, by phone, or online will result in legal action. I am no longer the quiet daughter, and I owe no one silence. I hit send. Then I blocked half the people in my contacts list. I knew what was coming. The backlash, the dramatics, the sobbing voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart. And sure enough, the next morning, it began. My mother left 5 messages before noon, escalating from fake concern to pure rage. You're overreacting. It was just a slap. You embarrassed her first. You're going to regret this when you're older. Then came Haley's group text, sent to me and a dozen family members. It's sad when people care more about their real estate than their blood. I've never felt so abandoned on my own wedding day. She added a crying emoji for dramatic effect. I didn't respond. Instead, I forwarded the message to Judge Carver. She replied within the hour. Good. Document everything. You've taken the first step. Don't back down. And I wouldn't, because this time I wasn't letting guilt win. This time, I was done playing the role of the responsible sister who quietly cleaned up everyone else's messes. This time, I was drawing the line. And if they didn't like it, too bad, because boundaries aren't cruelty. They're survival. A week passed. The online drama slowed down. The family group chats went silent. For the first time in years, I had quiet, real, uninterrupted peace. Then came the knock on my door. I looked through the peephole. Haley, hair curled, makeup perfect, wearing the exact same pastel pink she wore at her bridal shower. Soft, innocent, calculated. I opened the door a few inches. She gave me a smile that didn't touch her eyes. Can we talk? I didn't answer, just stepped aside. She walked in like she still owned the place. We sat at the kitchen island, the same one where I had once poured her coffee after every breakup, every drama, every mistake. She began with a sigh. Look, I'm sorry. Things got out of hand. I was stressed. You humiliated me. I reacted. I raised an eyebrow. That's your apology? I said I'm sorry, she snapped, then caught herself and softened her tone. It's just, you could have handled it differently. You didn't have to say anything at the wedding. You know how I get. I stayed silent. Then she got to the real reason she came. Ryan and I are still kind of between places. The lease on our temporary unit is up in a month. I was thinking, maybe we could start over. Maybe you'd reconsider letting us stay here. Just 6 months. We'd stay out of your way. There it was. Not an apology, a pitch. I leaned back. Calm. Controlled. So you slapped me in front of 300 people, humiliated me, rallied the family against me. And now you want the keys to my home? Her voice dropped to a whisper. I didn't mean to slap you, but you forced me to do it. You always think you're better than everyone. And there it was. The real Haley, still entitled, still weaponizing guilt, still unable to see me as anything other than a resource. I stood up. This conversation is over. You turn your back on your own sister? No, I said. You did that when you raised your hand. I opened the door and motioned for her to leave, and for the first time she did. Without another word. I should have known Haley wouldn't go quietly. Just 3 days after our little talk, I started getting strange looks at work. One colleague pulled me aside in the elevator and said, Hey, sorry about all that family drama. Weddings bring out the worst, huh? I blinked. What did you hear? She hesitated. Oh, just what Haley posted about you kicking her out during a mental health spiral? I felt like the floor dropped beneath me. I opened Facebook, and there it was. A long, teary post from Haley, with a carefully filtered photo of her sitting alone, clutching a coffee mug. Sometimes the people closest to you turn coldest when you need them most. I made a mistake. I reacted emotionally, but what I needed was compassion, not exile. Everyone sees my slap. No one sees the years of pressure, judgment, and isolation that led to it. I begged for help, and I was told to get out. Hundreds of likes, dozens of comments. "You're so strong, girl. You deserve better. Family should never abandon you like that." I wanted to scream. Not because she lied, but because she lied so beautifully. Haley had always been good at twisting the story. She didn't tell them about the penthouse demand. She didn't mention the public slap. She didn't say anything about the threats, the entitlement, the months of manipulation. No, she played the victim. And this time she had an audience. My phone buzzed again. A text from Judge Carver. "Saw the post. Don't take the bait. We stay calm. We stay factual. When you're ready, let's document your side. Properly." For the first time in my life, I had backup. So I replied, "I'm done letting her write the story. It's my turn now." And just like that, I stopped being the quiet sister. I was about to become the one who finally told the truth. I met with Judge Carver that Friday. We didn't meet in a courtroom. We met at a quiet cafe, the kind where lawyers, doctors, and quiet power brokers discuss things over black coffee and signed documents. She laid out a plan, not a revenge plot but a legal strategy. "Everything she's posted can be considered defamatory," Carver explained. "But more importantly, it's a smear campaign to pressure you into giving up property rights." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean blackmail?" "In spirit, yes. She's trying to manipulate you publicly for private gain. It's a pattern, and courts recognize patterns." We gathered everything: screenshots of her Facebook post, group chat messages, the wedding video. Yes, someone recorded the slap, and my original property lease, which proved the penthouse was solely mine. The next week, Carver filed a cease and desist order against Haley for defamation and harassment. And when the notice was officially served, Haley went silent. For 48 hours. Then she snapped. She sent me a voice message, her voice trembling with fury. "You're turning people against me. You're making me look unstable. I just wanted a home. Your home. And now you've got lawyers?" Yes, I did. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't playing nice. I wasn't smoothing things over. I wasn't trying to keep the family peace. I was protecting my name, my home, my peace of mind. And here's the thing. The moment that notice went public, people started messaging me, quietly, privately. Old cousins. Friends of the family. Bridesmaids who had stayed silent at the wedding. "I saw what she did. I didn't know what to say, but I'm with you. We always thought you were the strong one." It's about time someone said no to Haley, and that's when it hit me. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to be consistent and undeniable. The group text came on a Sunday morning. "Family meeting, this Thursday, at Mom and Dad's 7 p.m. We need to put this behind us. Enough drama." It was sent by Haley. I almost laughed. She wanted to put it behind us. After slapping me in public, smearing me online, and trying to guilt me into giving her my home? But part of me knew. I had to go. Not for her. For me. So Thursday night, I walked into my parents' living room, the same one where I'd spent years being told to keep the peace, to let Haley have her moment, to be the bigger person. Everyone was already there. Haley in full damaged princess mode, oversized sweater, no makeup, eyes red like she'd been crying for days. My mother, stiff and silent. My father, arms crossed. Aunt Claire, Uncle Joe, even 2 cousins I hadn't seen in years. They weren't there for peace. They were there for a show. Haley spoke first. Her voice was shaky but rehearsed. "I know I made a mistake. I overreacted at the wedding. But this lawsuit, this public humiliation, it's tearing the family apart." Then she turned to me. "Can't you just let it go?" My mother added quietly. "She's your sister." And that was it. The unspoken rule I'd lived under my whole life. She's your sister, so you owe her. But not anymore. I stood up, calm and clear. You're right. She is my sister. And I did let it go for 30 years. I let it go when she lied, when she manipulated, when she humiliated me. But now, I'm letting it go by setting boundaries you can't cross anymore. The room went still. Haley opened her mouth, but no sound came out. My father tried to speak. I raised a hand. This isn't a debate. I'm not asking for approval. I'm telling you. The line is drawn. Respect it, or don't. But either way, I'm done playing the fool in this family circus. And just like that, I turned and walked out. For the first time, no one followed. A week after the so-called family intervention, I was finally beginning to breathe again. I'd moved on with work, started sleeping better, even caught myself smiling at nothing while sipping coffee on my balcony. I thought it was over. Then came the article. A cousin forwarded it to me with a single line. Thought you should see this. The headline? Bride's wedding ruined by jealous sister, a family torn apart over real estate feud. Below it was a photo of Haley, mid-tier, taken from one of her social media posts, and a long, melodramatic story clearly written with her full cooperation. She claimed, I had always been jealous of her. I had sabotaged her wedding out of spite. I refused to support her during a mental health breakdown. And worst of all, I had weaponized wealth to humiliate her. It was tabloid bait. Dramatic, shallow, one-sided, but effective. The comment section was flooded. What kind of sister ruins a wedding? Money doesn't buy class. Sounds like she's bitter and alone. And for a moment, just a moment, it stung. Not because I believed them, but because Haley had always known how to spin herself into the victim. This was her masterpiece. But what she didn't realize was that I wasn't alone anymore. Within hours, people who had seen the slap video, who had read the cease and desist, who had witnessed her entitled behavior online, started commenting too. Check the facts before you judge. Funny how the victim never mentions assaulting her sister in front of 300 people. There's always two sides, and only one seems to be documented. Then, a journalist reached out to me, not for gossip, but for truth. We're doing a follow-up. Would you like to share your side? And I smiled. Because for once, I wasn't reacting, I was responding. With truth, with clarity, and with every receipt. Haley thought her story would bury me, but all it did was hand me the mic. The interview aired on a Tuesday. It wasn't flashy. No dramatic music, no teary confessions. Just me, seated across from a calm, professional journalist, sharing my side. For the first time, I spoke about the wedding, about the slap, about the years of being dismissed, guilt-tripped, and manipulated. I shared the screenshots, the cease and desist letter, the video. Everything was backed up with calm clarity. I didn't insult Haley. I didn't attack her. I just told the truth. Slowly, firmly, and without shame. By Thursday, the internet had changed its tune. So she really slapped her sister in front of 300 people and then played victim? Mackenzie handled that with more grace than I ever could. Why is it always the quiet one who has to carry the weight of the entire family? Boundaries are not betrayal. Even the original article that painted me as a villain was updated, with a note from the editor. New details have emerged regarding the incident. We have included statements and legal documentation from Mackenzie Carter, who disputes the original narrative. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt free. Haley, on the other hand, went silent. No new posts. No performative quotes. Just silence. For the first time, she couldn't twist the narrative, because this time, the truth had receipts, and a voice louder than gossip. Later that week, I received an email from someone unexpected. Ryan's mother. Short. Direct. I apologize for the behavior that was shown at the wedding. Thank you for protecting your boundaries. I wish you peace moving forward. That meant more than all the apologies my family never gave, because it proved something. Even when you're surrounded by people who try to distort your worth, the truth still finds its way through. And now? I wasn't afraid of being seen anymore. It's been 6 months since the slap. 6 months since I stood up. Not just to Haley, but to the entire legacy of silence I was raised in. The funny thing is, when you grow up in dysfunction, Peace feels unfamiliar at first, like a luxury you weren't taught to believe you deserved. But over time, it becomes normal, and then it becomes non-negotiable. I've reconnected with people who see me, not just use me. I've hosted dinner parties, not for validation, but for joy. I started writing again, sleeping better, laughing more, and most importantly, I stopped explaining myself. I don't defend my boundaries. I don't justify my choices. I don't flinch when someone says, "But she's your sister." Because here's what I know now. Family isn't who shares your last name. It's who respects your no without making you bleed for it. And Haley? She faded from my life like a season that overstayed its welcome. No final fight, no apology. Just gone. Occasionally, I hear from relatives still caught in the family web. They ask if I'll come back around. I tell them the truth. I never left. I just stopped shrinking to fit in. The penthouse is still mine, but more importantly, so is my peace. That voice in my head, the one that used to say, "Don't cause trouble," or "Just let it go," she's gone now, replaced by a stronger voice, a wiser one, mine. And as I sip my coffee on the balcony each morning, watching the city wake up, I realize something. I didn't lose a sister. I found myself, and that was worth everything.